Hey there, gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we have some breaking news, which is that Ubisoft is basically about to shut down. At least that's what it seems like. They've just announced that they are fully canceling 6 of their major games, including the Prince of Persia remake, which there's been a lot of leaks that the Prince of Persia remake was done. So apparently it was just so bad they'd rather delete it than release it. They're also delaying 7 games, and they've announced that here in 3 weeks, coming up on February 12th, they're going to be doing mass layoffs, which sounds like Ubisoft is going to be closing a lot more studios than it's already closed. Let's go through all this because there's been a lot of leaks that Ubisoft has been very deep in the red now for pretty much the last decade. And this seems like, honestly, if they don't get bought, they're dead. Let's get into it. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I want to start with the fact that, honestly, I feel like a lot of you guys that didn't grow up with peak Ubisoft probably are just rolling your eyes. I see a lot of people saying, like, disappointed but not surprised. I feel like a lot of people kind of forget, man, in that late Xbox era, that early Xbox 360 era, Ubisoft was legitimately one of the best game makers. Not just for Prince of Persia, not just for like early Assassin's Creed. They were inventing open world tech that nobody else had. Straight up, they created systems of crowd density that were just literally so groundbreaking. And then ever since they made those early open world games, they got worse and worse and worse. I feel like they became almost a parody of themselves. So many Ubisoft games were just filled with hundreds of flags and climbing towers over and over again. For a company that invented open world, man, did they just run it into the ground. But let me start by reading this, right? Ubisoft has canceled 6 games, including the Prince of Persia remake. Ubisoft also announced it's delaying 7 other games to ensure enhanced quality benchmarks are fully met. You guys know on this channel, I hate corporate speak. I want to read the statement, though, in the fact that it's just wild. This specifically getting canceled. I wanted to look at the Prince of Persia statement. I actually haven't seen this yet. I just pulled this up as we started filming. We wanted to ensure this and tell you this directly. We've made the difficult decision to stop development on Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. We know this is deeply disappointing. This game carries enormous meaning for the fans and for the teams who worked on it. While the project had real potential, we weren't able to reach the level of quality that you deserve, and continuing would have required more time and investment than we could responsibly commit. Now, part of what makes this so insane, for the last 2 months, a lot of major leakers actually were saying that the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake was done. There are actually multiple people that said it was supposed to be released on the 13th. Yes, you heard me correctly. There were multiple people that said it was going to be released on January 13th. Apparently, it was so done that internally it had a release date. At least that's what a lot of people have claimed. But I guess whatever final benchmark they went, this thing is just not up to snuff. Now, keep in mind, they already restarted development on this once. They fully made the game, went, wait, this sucks, fully remade it a second time, and then canceled it for a second time. I mean, holy heck. I want to look at the replies to this. Better to release something good than something that people will hate. But damn, broski, 6 years for nothing, all in the garbage bin. Did you see the game? Did it look bad? Did the plans change? What the heck? It's just, man, give us an HD collection of the trilogy or something. Give us something, right? A consolation prize. This is so wild. Even freaking Jeff Keighley talking about this. Layoffs with a release date is insane. Ubisoft has canceled 6 games, and they announced additional layoffs coming up on February 12th. I mean, really, it can't be overstated by the fact that a lot of stuff right now, there's a lot of companies right now that are simply trying to break even with tax write-off. So I'm going to explain something real quick. Why would you cancel a game that's done? Why would you cancel something that's 95% done rather than release it? So something happens with a lot of these projects is that if you spend $50 million, $100 million making something, a lot of times you can write it off as a loss. You can basically say, okay, we're going to zero that out and not have to pay $80 or $100 in taxes, right? This is a trick that Hollywood does a lot, where they almost finish a movie and then scrap it and go, okay, we spent $80 million on it. Let's write off $80 million. I think a lot of times with these games now, internally, and even good companies like Square Enix has been doing this a lot lately. They go, okay, we've already spent $100 million making this game, but when it comes out, we're probably going to spend $50 to $100 million advertising it. We got to do like sponsored streams and crazy tie-in stuff and, Final Fantasy VII inside of Happy Meals and crap like that, right? So the thing is, they start to go, okay, it's more valuable to us to write it off than to even attempt to sell it, like what they did with Concord, where releasing that, honestly, the rumors is that Sony lost $400 million on Concord. And a lot of these companies now go, it's better to scrap it than to even try to salvage it. They're calling this a major company reset, which has resulted in 6 canceled games, 7 delayed projects, 2 studio closures as it reorganizes into creative houses. Very Game of Thrones sounding. Here's my dealio, which is that not only do I absolutely hate corpo speak, it sounds like this is the last desperate urge, this last big thrust by Ubisoft. There's been a lot of discussions pretty publicly that they want to be bought, but for so many billions of dollars, nobody really wants to pay that price, where really a lot of this stuff isn't as valuable individually or even collectively as it technically is, right? Splinter Cell is technically worth like hundreds of millions of dollars, but there's no Splinter Cell games, stuff like The Crew. You don't really see a lot of like hardcore The Crew fans, but technically that series is worth, hundreds of millions of dollars, at least as an intellectual property. What about things like, obviously, The Division? There's talks about The Division 3 and The Division getting like a realism mode. A lot of this stuff is valuable on paper, and it makes it where nobody wants to spend, the $2 or $3 billion it would take to acquire Ubisoft, because right now, their developers aren't putting out great stuff. Their developers are not making $3 billion worth of stuff. Even though it is that valuable on paper, the IP to an actual company just isn't worth it. Microsoft's not going to gobble that up. Apple isn't going to bottle that up. Sony has no interest in spending $3 billion to basically own a bunch of, practically dead IP. But I also think it comes down to the fact that how badly they've been running stuff for the last couple of years. Like, keep in mind Skull and Bones. I think Skull and Bones is the pinnacle of misuse of Ubisoft funds. Skull and Bones was in development forever. When have you heard anybody say anything good about Skull and Bones ever, right? I fully beat that game. Not only did I fully beat that game, I interacted with the PvP. I actually tried to give that game a shot. Nobody cared about that at all. That game was so expensive, they said this is beyond AAA, this is a quadruple A game. And it sold about 1,000 copies. That, I almost feel like, is the legacy of current day Ubisoft. Bloat, over potential, cool trailers, and absolutely vapid, empty open worlds. At this point, I don't trust them with it. I still wish we had seen the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. Hopefully we get a Sands of Time collection at least, because at this point, letting the IP die for $0 in a ditch, it seems like a pathetic waste of good art. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you could, please give this video a like.
Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.